Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good evening. For those of you who are new to my page, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Today I have a very special guest with me, Megan, all the way from Cape Town in South Africa. Thank you so much, Megan, for joining me today.
Oh,
I
it's
know
a
you're busy
pleasure. It's
and you
my
had a long day working and you still have your kids to sort out. And you're joining me here now live as well. Thank you so much.
pleasure. You're welcome. It's just a pleasure.
Okay, Megan, please introduce yourself, who you are, um, more your background, your work, and things like that.
Well, thank you, Sajida, for the opportunity. My name is Megan. For those of you who don't know me, Megan Davids. I live in Cape Town with my family, my husband, and 3 children. I am a sales administrator by day, and then I also have an online business that I've had since 2020, since August 2020. That's
Okay.
about it. Just a regular person um, working towards my dream.
Okay, so obviously, you're working in the corporate world. What made you decide to go online? What was your driving point? What made you realize, that you need to find something more, how can I say?
It was actually, more than one thing, Sajid. I have to be completely honest. I don't know if people have these, but I sort of had an epiphany. For
Mhm.
some people, it happens with age. You get to a certain age and you wonder to yourself whether there's more to life than the life that you're currently living. And I think for a lot of people, that tends to happen. People do get epiphanies. But mine was, it wasn't out of the blue. It was just, I was standing on the balcony one day at my job, and I was looking out over, our yard and everywhere else. And, I actually literally didn't even ask myself. I looked up and I asked God, listen, is this all there is to life, that you have to work, for most of your life, retire at age 65 if you're lucky, if you can afford to retire, and just have weekends to be free and do the things that you need to do, because if you're working a full-time job, like I've been for many years, you get to spend so little time with your family and your children. Your children grow up so quickly. Before you know it, they are teenagers. Then they're graduating from high school. Then they're going to university. And then at the end of the day, you ask yourself, oh my gosh, where's the time gone? I've missed out on so much. I think because we only have this, I felt like I only have this one life. I'm not guaranteed. I don't know whether there's an afterlife and whether, my soul will come back in some other form or whatever the case might be. But, um, you know, I had this enlightenment and this overwhelming feeling. At that point, it was a feeling of hopelessness because I was looking for an answer. I was looking for something more, and I said, Lord, please give me a sign. God, please, if there must be more to life than what we're currently living,
Mhm.
and I was very serious. I was literally crying inside, and I said, God, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't want to go through this. I hardly saw my boys grow up. Um, I don't look like it, but I am actually almost 40. 2 years away from 40. So my eldest son, I have an adult son, is 23.
Wow.
My youngest son is turning 14. And then we have a little late lamb, if you want to call it that, little late
The
lamb
late,
of 8 months old. So yeah, with the boy, I missed out on so much. I was very career driven at the time, with both my children. I know with my youngest son, I was still busy studying law. So between full time work and studying, you tend to miss a lot of things, and you tend to when I look at him now, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how did this happen? You're a teenager, and the point is, I miss out, and that day I just said to myself, there must be more to life. And I asked God to send me a sign, send me the solution. And I prayed about it. And I literally, like I said, I literally cried about it, because I just felt like I can't do this anymore. A few days later, I'm never on Facebook. I have to add this, I'm on Facebook. I had a Facebook account for many years, but it was just every now and then I would post something. If I posted something like twice or thrice a year, that would be a lot. So I just happened to be on Facebook one day, and I saw this ad of a couple, and they were speaking my language in terms of what they wanted, and I could relate so much to them. And that is what drew me to read a little bit more, and find out a little bit more. And that's actually how I came about this business. I was looking for a way out of, I call it the race. And that to me was like the answer. I asked for a sign, and I came across it, and I said, all I could say was, thank you, God. Here's the sign. I'm doing this. Yeah, so that's how I started out. In August of 2020, I became a business owner, have been ever since. And it's been fun. It's been such a learning curve. I have to say that I won't say that I'm not a social person, but I'm a very private person. And just speaking to you now, this business has really brought me to a point of confidence in my life. In so much so that, we are doing what we are doing now. We are broadcasting live, we are posting, which I never would have been able to do. I'm not a shy person, but I'm very private. And I never saw myself doing this. So to me, this is a plus, because it's a side of me that I never knew existed, that this business has basically pushed me to open up and explore. And it's so much fun. I don't know about you, but I'm having fun all the time when I do this.
Yeah, again, you spoke about praying. I resonate with that so much because it was the same way I found my way, found this platform.
Oh,
We had
wow.
we had an armed robbery that same week, and I think I had reached a breaking point, and this was in 2020 when my baby was just she was 6 weeks old.
Oh my
So
God,
I
that's
think at
horrible.
that point was like, I was like really emotional, and I remember I just prayed and prayed and prayed, and that is when I came across my mentor's ad. And I can't remember. I just like registered, spoke to her, and I started. There was no time to, I mean, I didn't even do due diligence or anything. I just hopped on, right on.
It just felt
And
right.
yeah, it just felt right. So yeah, that's, so for you, what was the convincing part? I mean, you just did, you watched the webinar, or,
I
the next
did,
step is the
it
live.
actually took me a couple of days to get through. I didn't watch the live webinar because, as you know, it's obviously, when it is live, I think it's about 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning where we are. But
Mm-hmm.
I watched the replay because I had the link, and I actually watched the replay over a couple of days because I wanted to watch from the beginning right until the end. So I couldn't do the entire 90 minutes of the webinar, all in one go. Between work, home, and the time that I had for myself, I sort of watched over 3 days. And, um, it was just the fact that, all the people all the panelists that were on that webinar that day, you would think that, yes, we are in South Africa, and other people are in other countries, that I think it's always a matter of, you always think that you're alone in your struggle until you meet someone who is in exactly the same situation, who wants exactly the same things that you want, who sees the world exactly the same way that you see it, who's reached that point in their lives the same way that you've reached that point in their lives, and they were speaking the language, that they were talking about stuff that I wanted to hear. And I remember watching pieces of the webinar. I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. I don't know what it is, but I want to do it. And it was just that hype. And, it didn't even take me long to join. After I watched the webinar, I joined immediately. And when I got my pre-coaching videos, oh my gosh, when I saw that compensation plan, I was like, no way. I was
This
like, this
isn't
can't
real.
be.
Mm.
It took me a couple of days, and I watched, the coaching videos over and over and over, and I tried to grasp it and, just look at it, but it was just so, I just became excited. I was like, I've never had that feeling. I just became extremely excited, and I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And because I asked God for a sign, and this is what He sent me, I knew that I had to put 100% of my effort into this. I had to learn it. I had to go and dig deep. I know sometimes in life, especially if you've studied in your life, so you've been to school, you've worked, had a few jobs, and you decided, listen, I'm going to do this course, or I'm going to study towards that, just to give yourself a lift in life. To me, this didn't feel like effort, because I was learning how to become self-sufficient, but also to still have my time for myself. So it was, and I learned things that I never knew, things that I never knew I could do, I'm doing now online. Um, and they always say that you're never too old to learn, but when it came to like tech stuff, I wasn't that great at it. But everything was just step by step by step. It was it was actually amazing how simple the training really was when I got to that point. Um, because you can go back, like, if there was never a point where I didn't understand, what they meant, because everything was literally, this is step A, and then you do this to get to step B, etc., etc. So it was quite easy. But yeah, I just became extremely excited, and I said, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. Um, Interestingly enough, I have to share, one of our business partners, I don't know if you know her, Natasha Yager. She posted something today, and it resonated with me. And she said, it's odd how building something, that could potentially give you your freedom in 2 to 3 years is so hard for some people to do. However, committing to working for someone else for 40 plus 50 years, it's not hard, you know. And I think she was speaking about the fact that some people would say, it's an online business, I want things to happen overnight. And it's just not that way, because it's a business. You're building it, you're building your brand, you need to put your own, you know, your own brand on it, and your own shift on things. And you need to run your business the way that you see fit. So it's not an overnight thing. If you go and work for a company, you're not going to become the CEO overnight. You're not going to become the director overnight. So it's all a work in progress, and it's exactly the same with regard to that principle when it comes to this online business. Um, but yeah, I'm still very excited. Still learning a lot, but yeah, I love
We
it.
all have access to the same training. We all have the same tools. The only variable is us, is how disciplined
Correct.
we are. How much of
Correct.
effort and time we're willing to put in, how patient we
Yeah.
are, and you are going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs, but they're all learning um, experiences. It's you learn from you learn from your mistakes, and you grow from them. you know
Exactly.
you mentioned that,
Exactly.
okay, you when you watched the webinar, you did the 149. Was there any skepticism or any doubts in your head at that point
Not at
when you had
all.
to
No, not at all.
cross?
when I saw the not only the compensation plan, but I saw what the business was about and where it's rooting from, there was no doubt in my mind, no doubt whatsoever. This business is 100% legit. You know, it's backed by a company that's been around, I think, for longer than some of us have been. So
Okay.
I didn't have any doubt. You know, obviously, you know, with online things, yes, people are fearful of, because there are so many scams out there. But yeah, like you said, you know, people need to do their due diligence.
Of
And I
course.
think watching the webinar is the first step, because these are people from all over the globe. I mean, look where we are. People from literally everywhere in the world, every corner of the earth, you know, all doing this business. So people, if people really are interested in doing it, they need to do their due diligence by watching the webinar. If you have to watch every single replay, because you do get a link once you
Mhm.
register to it for every week's webinar, so that you can watch the replay. I think do so. You know, if you're hesitant or you have some doubts, go and watch replay. There's different people every time on the webinar, all, you know, talking about the same thing, and obviously also telling the story, because every person has a story. Every person has a reason that they are here. Every person, you know, has a reason why they were looking for something like this, you know, in the first place. And I think at the end of the day, it's not just about earning money. It's about obtaining and keeping your freedom as a person. And I think that to me is very important. That is actually the
And
most important thing.
also, as moms, we tend to give ourselves, sacrifice so much of ourselves, our time. This, it's something we're doing for ourselves, something for us.
Exactly. And that we can
Also,
leave for our kids one day, which is awesome.
of course, it's a legacy for our kids. Recently
Mm.
I am, okay, we have to run ads to run our business. So I get a lot of, are you a scam? Are you real? And I always tell people, go and look at our profiles, go and look at our business pages. We are real. And this is the reason why we do these go lives. So you can
Mm.
connect with us and see that, we are real. We are not scamming anyone. We genuine. And we
Exactly.
really
Exactly.
help people, find something that's legitimate, something that's
Mm.
easy to get into the digital space.
And especially with the training that we have, you know, it's not rocket science. I mean, I think if
Definitely,
we
yes.
were to, you know, give that, hand that training to a fifth grader, that fifth grader
Thank
would
you
be
so
able to get through the training. That's how easy and user friendly it is, you know. And people always fear things that they don't know, so they always criticize, and especially in the online world, if they're not familiar with this sort of business, which I find actually very hard to believe, because when the pandemic hit, most of us were forced to turn, you know, to the online space.
much.
We could hardly go into shops, so there was online shopping. You know, groceries getting delivered to your door, and things like that. So it's actually strange that people still feel like everything online is a scam. You know, I think people just tend to, they're not familiar with it, or they don't know about it, and now they tend to, you know, the only conclusion that they make in their minds is that it's a scam. But yeah, like you said, you know, anyone who has doubt, you are more than welcome to come and check us out. You know,
Yes.
come onto our pages, like you said, come and see who we are. I don't think anyone, you know, with dignity would put themselves out there and scam people. You know, we putting ourselves out there, not only ourselves, our families as well.
Mm.
So yeah, you know, come and snoop around, like as I always say, snoop around, and then you will find the information that you need,
Do due diligence.
or
No,
you will get
don't.
to the conclusion that you need to get to.
Hmm. We're not saying don't do your due diligence. Of course, do your due diligence, do all your research. Knowledge is power. You have to educate yourself. There are a lot of scams out there, but we are giving you that chance to do your due diligence. And what's the 149 that you pay is 30 days money back guarantee. You have 30 days to check us out, whether
Correct.
you're willing to join us or not. There's no
Yeah.
pressure from any. You take your time, you decide. Whatever your decision is, we respect that. And
And I
when you
think it's
join
just a matter of exactly. It's just a matter of being confident, you know. When I joined the business, there was like hardly any people going live. The few that were going live on their pages, you know, were people, some of the founders, because they were used to doing it. But you don't even need to do that in order to run your business, you know. Um, like I said, you have to put your own personal spin on things and find your brand, find, you know, what works for you, because what will work for you won't necessarily work for someone else. You know, find your audience, for example. Um, but yeah, I mean, I,
it's a,
you know,
yeah.
was the last person who would say that I'm a Facebook person, but here I am. I'm doing business, I'm running the business, and I love it.
And sometimes we have to get out of our comfort zone as well. Sorry, that's just our house alarm. My husband just came in now. Okay.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So we just have to get off our comfort zone. Take that step. Have a positive mindset. Um, you just never know. You thank yourself later. Okay. Thank you, Megan, so much. I know it's quite late. It's 9:20. It's almost time now. Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely chatting to you. And we have Naima that was watching from Canada, Najat and
Louis,
Nasima from, yes, they all say hi.
hi Nasima.
Okay. Thank you, ladies, for tuning in. And for those of you who watch the replay, um, you can either register on my website or Megan's website. Um, yeah. And we will answer any questions that you may have. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good night.
For those who are watching, and you know, like I mentioned earlier, if you have any doubts, go and check out Sajida's page, for example. Go and, you know, see what she's about. You know, register on her website, watch the webinar. You've got nothing to lose really by watching the webinar or registering to watch the webinar. Um, you get your own unique link, so you can actually go in, click on your link anytime and go and watch any of the webinar replays. Like I always say, you know, you've got nothing to lose by just watching, finding
Mhm.
out what the business is about, you know, and learning a thing or two about the online space, because
Yes.
this is
Mhm.
where the future is heading. You know, a lot of people, and I mean on a daily basis, hundreds of people are starting this business. Um, and it's just, you know, it's amazing how some of our mentors, you know, and our coaches, you know, they are still so supportive of us, you know. You get mentoring, you get coaching, you're on a team. We do team Zooms, which is so much fun. So, yeah, I mean, why not come and learn something different? Because I specifically love the saying that nothing changes if nothing changes. So, if we don't change, our mindset, for example, and how we think and, you know, and how we see things, then our lives are not going to change. So we need to get with the times, basically, you know, and that is what this
Thank
business
you.
offers, and it's
Mhm.
different streams of income. So it's not necessarily just one thing, um, but yeah, it's, you know, it's easy to do. You know, the training is easy. Like I said, we have a super supportive community. You've got teams, you've got coaches and mentors. So you are never alone in this business, which is awesome. I seriously, I love that
Mhm.
part.
And another thing to mention, in just 5 years, we had over 100,000 action takers.
My
people who took
gosh.
action.
Yes. That
That's
was
how
just,
huge we've gone.
yes. Yes.
Also,
That
not
was
also
so amazing.
people also think that there's so many of you doing this business, but there's no competition. There's
My
absolutely no
gosh, we have a,
competition.
you realize that we have a 70-year-old doing this business, a 70-year-old man doing this
Mm-hmm.
business, and he's doing fantastic.
Exactly. So what is your excuse? So yeah, we'd love to see you on the inside. You're more than welcome to
Good.
visit on either of the website. And we'd love to connect with you guys soon. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And thank you, Megan, for chatting with me tonight. It was a
You're very
pleasure having
welcome.
you
It
up.
was great chatting to you. Thank you, Sajida.
Thank
Thanks for the
you.
opportunity.
You're welcome. I'd love to do this again. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Okay.
Chat soon. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.